Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We are just waiting a few more moments while everyone tunes in to today's webinar. So I will be just turning my video off until 12 so we can just get started right on time. For those that are just joining, because we're doing the webinar through WebEx, if I can remind you guys to please mute yourself and turn off your videos. So when I am presenting, you guys can hear me okay and see me fine. And then throughout the presentation, you will be able to write your questions in the chat. We have a chat that is available, so you guys can feel free to write your doubts and all of your inquiries through there. So I'm going to wait another 2 minutes before we get started. Okay, guys, so I am back so we can get started. Welcome everyone to today's webinar on how to take care of your child's mental health. My name is Dr. Daniela Salazar. I am working at Lighthouse Arabia. So if you just joined, just remember to please mute yourself and you can turn off your video so that you will be able to see the presentation and hear me just fine. This webinar will be recorded, so you can have this for your reference as well, be sent to your email, as well as a handout with several resources that might be of your use. So I am going to go ahead and share my presentation with you all. See if we can get this working. I think we are okay now. I'm going to put it on full screen mode. Okay. So, like I was saying, we are going to begin our webinar to talk about how to take care of your child's mental health. I just remind everyone to please mute yourself. That would be great, so that you can all hear me speak fine. Just remind you guys to your screens. I think I hear someone not. So let me get started again. All right. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so we are very excited today because we are going to be working with the Child Safety Department, and we are giving this talk with them. Now, the Child Safety Department has this amazing initiative to take care of the children around the UAE, to give them the supports and the skills and the tools for parents to really look after their overall well-being and safety. And so for me, it is an honor to be working with the Child Safety Department, to be giving you this talk so that you all can learn the useful tools to be able to take care of your child's mental health. Now, I'm going to introduce a little bit of who the Lighthouse is. We are a well-being and mental health center down in Sakim. We have a range of services that are being given online for everyone to use. We have psychotherapy, we have one-to-one psychiatry, we have educational assessments being done now. We also have one-to-one adult psychotherapy as well as child and adolescent psychotherapy. So we have a bunch of different services and workshops that we're giving to the community, as well as online support groups. So all of these are our services. You can feel free to also look at our website and look at the different resources that we are giving the community at the moment. This is our beautiful team of about 27 psychologists from different parts of the world. And so, like myself, we are here to serve you all in the community and be able to be of great guidance. Now, if you've never been to a therapist before, the first thing I want to say to get you a little bit through the fence is that just like we have a physical checkup, I recommend also having a mental health well-being checkup. And this is, you have a 30-minute interview with a psychologist, and the psychologist is then going to guide you through some areas of your life to just tell you how your mental health is doing. And they might be giving you recommendations and guidelines for your overall mental health. So we have, a great team of different experts that can do that for you. We also are going to then start with our topic of the day. We are going to be understanding a little bit of what the COVID-19 situation can look like in the different age ranges of our children. We're also going to be talking a little bit about anxiety and what it means to feel anxious and what is the purpose of anxiety in our lives. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about what to do with our children that are anxious and how to take care of our own anxiety. Now, as we know, these are unprecedented times. We don't have a rule book. We don't have a manual that really is going to be telling us exactly what we need to be doing. So for now, what we are doing is getting all of the research, all of the studies that we have done in psychology to give you all the skills and the resources that you need to be able to cope with unprecedented times. Coronavirus is something completely new, but unprecedented times is not something new. We've always encountered uncertainty in different areas of our life. And so these are the tools that we are going to offer you today. And finally, you will leave this webinar with some important resources and tools that you can use to soothe that anxiety that we might be feeling. Now, it is true that right now, after these 7 weeks since COVID started, there might not just be anxiety. There might be grief, there might be sadness, there might be worry, there must be anger. So all of these emotions right now are completely valid and actually useful to have to be able to then adapt to the new circumstances that we're living in. So how can this situation affect our children? Now, if we know what anxiety looks like in our child, we know that the fears and worries are not the same type of fears and worries we feel as adults. These are children that are going to express their fears very differently because they're not in the psychological developmental stage to be able to verbalize their feelings in the way adults do. So we might just feel that they're just saying that they're feeling good, they're feeling bad because football matches are canceled, or they're not able to see their friends, or maybe a good thing is that they're not wearing their uniforms to go to school, or they don't have to wake up as early or do as much homework. So these are the sort of things we are hearing from young kids. However, there's an underlying grief and sadness that might be also coming up after these 7 weeks. They're not able to see their friends as they used to. Their routine has completely shifted. Our homes are now not just associated with rest and family time, but is also being associated with leisure time, with school, with entertainment, with sleep, with eating. So all of these things are now being associated to one space. And even though we might think that might not be a problem, emotionally speaking, that requires a big adjustment. Now, the second thing is that the understanding of what COVID-19 is, especially for young kids, is not there. They don't understand what a pandemic is. They do not understand what a virus is. They only understand the present moment and how the present moment is affecting the parents and the people around them. So it is really important throughout this presentation for you all to think about your role in the house and how your kids might be perceiving you. So now that we are knowing that our role is going to be important, we also need to take a very close look at the different developmental stages that your child is in. So in their brain, there's a lot of things that's happening. The first thing is that it's changing, right? Their brains are not fully developed. They have different parts of the brain that are growing on a constant basis, that need a little bit more regulation. And these things that are changing and are becoming malleable are going to be regulated by the adult. They do not have the capacity to self-regulate their emotions or to actually express how they feel. So the prefrontal cortex that is located in the front of their brain is still changing. So you will be then the surrogate frontal lobe for your child during this time. We need to understand that all of the behaviors that we see, positive and negative behaviors for young kids especially, are actually a form of communication. Because there isn't the language and the self-regulation we spoke about, the behaviors we see are going to speak for them. So we are going to have a detective hat on with our children to be able to understand and really engage with them in the appropriate way. So now let's talk a little bit about the developmental stages for them. Every child is going to experience coronavirus in a different way. Now, during these different ages, children are going to be interested in different things. So for children that are under 3-year-olds, they're most likely going to start looking at their adult or the father or the grandmother, whoever is around them, as a source of reference of how they need to feel. They're not in the capacity to think about future events or past events. They're only in the capacity to grasp onto the present moment. They have limited understanding of the cause and effect, and they don't understand what they cannot see. And this is really important because the virus is, something invisible. They don't necessarily perceive danger. All they can see is maybe mom crying, or mom raising her voice, or dad crying, or dad being worried about losing his or her job. So this is where that is going to be the #1 point of reference for children under 3. Now, if we think about children from 3 to 7 years old, that's going to be a little bit different. They're a lot more conscious of disasters, or trying to slowly build the appreciation of what possible death might look like. Their awareness of dangers around the world are a little more consolidated, but they struggle a little bit about how a virus that is not seen can cause death. And that in their minds isn't something very easy to grasp on. So there still needs to be that help and that mediation from the child, from the parent to the child. So we need to give our children very concrete, very tangible examples of the different dangers that they might be facing during this time. So it might be useful for the parent to use examples with their friends, or with another situation that might be threatening to them, not necessarily related to the virus, so that they understand the situation that we're living in. We want to make sure that the examples are age appropriate. Now, moving on to older kids, 7 to 12-year-olds, now they're getting a lot more understanding of what illness means. They now know what death means. They're now knowing that the world is changing, that they're not able to see their friends for this reason, that, you know, a lot of things are happening around them. But their frontal lobe is still not developed, and the words around feelings are going to be a little more difficult for them to express. So this is the age group actually where putting the detective hat on and looking at the behavior is going to be more important than ever. It is a time where their looks, their posture, their lack of interest, their irritability is going to say a lot more things than we initially expected to. Now, for older kids, 12 and above, now they can really think about the cause and effect. They can really think about how this is going to affect their future. They're creating alternatives in their minds, a lot of them catastrophizing and jumping to conclusions. But this is something that they're really, really good at right now. They're more likely to put a brave face on, to not upset parents and to not worry their parents if they see them already worried. And they're really going to be missing the friendships and the freedom that they felt they had at school, and then their extracurricular activities. And now that summer's coming up and the vacations are probably going to not happen, or they're going to be modified, this is something that is going to take a toll on the tweens and the teens of our community. So we really want to be sure that we are validating their feelings, we're listening to their concerns. We can't assume that they're okay because they're not crying, or they're not telling you that they're feeling upset. We need to start actually digging a little bit deeper and assuming that this is exactly what's happening to them, so we can start feeling more connected to our teens and tweens. Now, a little bit of research on COVID, which is important. According to the UN Secretary General Envoy on Youth, there has been so much research that's being done on how this is affecting young children around the world. And what is really interesting to see is that throughout these research, especially done in Europe and in North America and South America, they've realized that there's been such an increment in anxiety. And anxiety due to the uncertainty of the situation, not knowing if schools are going to happen next year, not knowing if maybe teenagers that are about to graduate are going to be able to start their new life in university. And to be actually really honest, there's actually a feeling of lack of productivity at home. How is it that I'm at home all day and I'm not doing what I need to be doing? And these are some of the reports that young kids are actually giving, research. I'm not being productive. My mind is elsewhere. I'm getting distracted with social media. I'm spending more time behind a screen. I am becoming more irritable with my loved ones because I'm in one confined space. I'm more worried about the future. I am missing that face-to-face connection with my peers. And so it becomes a very overwhelming and very gray cloud, if you will, on top of these young kids. On top of that, some kids are actually worried about marginalized communities in the world where, they might not be as safe, or, the poverty isn't letting them live the life that, safety does not come first in these communities. So kids that are tweens and that are older are now thinking about these impacts and really affecting their emotional well-being. Now, what is really interesting, and this is why these webinars and this initiative that the Child Safety Department is doing is important, is because when we identify a child that already has emotional needs and we add on the component of COVID-19, we know that this is going to take a bigger toll on them, that there is an 83% increase of their mental health illnesses at the beginning, now that COVID-19 has approached. So we really need to take this seriously. We want to be there for our kids. We want to understand the impacts that this is actually having on them. We cannot minimize the situation for our kids. So now let's think about some signs and symptoms, and what are some of the psychological distress signs that we might be seeing. So the first thing is there might be something called mixed feelings, right? So they don't really know the name of the feeling. But what we are going to be seeing, and by the way, this is a little image of a child who actually drew the feelings that he's having. And you might see him, feeling that he has a headache, sometimes shaky, more sensible and crying more often than not, needing to go to the bathroom, maybe even procrastinating a lot of the times through work. Their heart might beat faster than usually. They might not be going to bed in the same way they would, sweaty hands, biting their nails a lot more. These are some of the behaviors we all need to be wary of. Now, it is normal to be anxious in this time, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So this feeling is anxiety. And anxiety is the worry and the uncertainty of what tomorrow is going to bring. But there's another feeling that's happening, which is fear, which is actually there is a current danger that I'm not necessarily aware of and I can't see. So anxiety and fear are the perfect storm. Together they blend, and it's very, very overwhelming for anyone to experience. And so we jump, when we feel this, we jump into survival instinct. And usually what happens is we go into fight or flight mode, where if we are in fight mode, we become more irritable. If we are in flight mode, we might retract and we might not engage in the same activities we had engaged in the past. So understanding and being aware of these two responses about anxiety is going also to give you a little bit of a guideline as to, okay, what is my child doing? What am I doing when I'm feeling anxious or scared? Now, remember, it's not just anxiety that's happening. There is grief, there's frustration, there's a feeling of loss. A lot of young teenagers in my practice are actually grieving not being able to graduate in the same way they had planned to graduate. So these are feelings that need to be understood for what they are. Now, having said that and talking about how behavior is a form of communication, we usually get triggered as parents with the top behaviors that our kids show. So it's actually really easy to get triggered by their angry responses or their, stonewalling, or maybe controlling or oppositional, or maybe daydreaming or overly manipulative or overly happy. These are just emotions or behaviors that we see them and we might get triggered by them. But actually, what we know through long years of research is that these behaviors are just trying to keep your child safe. And there are other emotions at the bottom of the iceberg that we are not addressing, like loneliness, like overwhelmness, like anxiety, like being unloved or being scared or feeling worthless or feeling unsafe. Now, if as parents, we just react to the top part of the iceberg, we're really not meeting their underlying needs. And as parents, we have the responsibility to meet your children's needs. So we need to start looking past what they show and go into detective mode and understand that their anger is actually telling you something else, that their frustration is really telling you something else. So there might be fear of maybe getting separated from parents if parents get sick. There might be a lower tolerance to frustration because they feel, that they cannot get enough fresh air or they can't see their friends. So their tolerance level goes up. So their feelings of loneliness underneath. And we might even feel or see that our kids are regressing, that they're acting like babies, that they're not taking care of themselves. This is also a sign that there's an underlying need that has not been met. So we want to make sure that this detective hat is on to be able to address your kids in a different way. Now, if we think about resilience, which is, actually a really important time to be building resilience in our kids' life, resilience is the ability to jump back from a difficult emotion, from a difficult circumstance. It stems from the Latin word resilio, which means to jump back. So it is, the process of effectively negotiating, adapting, or managing significant sources of stress or trauma. So you are processing that in an accurate way. And this term resilience has to do a lot with grit. And grit is that feeling, the idea that enduring difficult emotions is going to give you strength. That actually going through difficult feelings is going to make you stronger, that it isn't going to make you weaker. So you are shifting from the victim vocabulary, that this is happening to me, to this is happening for me. I am getting something out of this situation. I am, becoming more self-aware. I am spending more time with my family. I'm able to do things that I had not done before because I was busy doing something else. So this is the concept of grit and resilience that we want to model and we want to teach our kids at home. So what can parents do? And this is where, the practical part of this seminar is going to be interesting. What we know is that family interventions are going to make a huge difference. Family therapy is actually more successful than individual therapy because you guys are the number one caregivers of your kids. You're there, your child more than anyone. So parents' involvement in this is priority. So we need to think about where you are first. How am I feeling? When you are in an airplane, they're always asking you to put your mask on first. You're not able to help your child if emotionally you're not in the good place. So a lot of our behavior and communication is nonverbal. So it isn't just about what we say, but what we show with our posture, with our tone of voice, with our eyes. How am I behaving in front of my child? Am I tense? Am I rigid? Am I rolling my eyes? Is my tone of voice a little bit too strong? How am I reacting in front of my child? And this is going to be a really important self-awareness exercise for you to actually teach your child to self-regulate himself. They're always, always looking at you. So we need to just understand the feelings that we have inside. Now, the first thing for us and for your child is to name your feeling. Is it worry? Is it frustration? Is it anxiety? Is it overwhelmness? What is it that I'm feeling today? And by the way, it is okay to be feeling those things because, like I said, we have never lived through times like this. We have never gone through something like this. So feeling overwhelmed that you have so many things to catch up on and that life just doesn't give you enough time is valid and it's important to recognize. Now, apart from recognizing the actual name of the feeling, identifying what you're thinking. Am I thinking I'm a failure? Am I thinking I'm not a good enough parent? Am I thinking I'm not going to get through the day? What are some of the words that are going in my mind? What is the story that I am telling myself? That story is feeding to your emotions, and that feeding to your emotions is helping you react and act in a way where maybe we are triggering your child and we're not necessarily going into the direction of the person that you want to be. So all of this reflection and self-awareness And this interior process, starting from the parent, is going to be extremely important. We always talk about compassion and, being self-compassionate and not being so rigid and tough on yourself. But I want to explain what it looks like, because when we think about care, we might even think it's selfish. We might think it's something we are not able to do because you need to look out for so many people. But it's actually an act of service. It's actually something that your child, your partner is going to thank you for. Because when you are in a better place and you're taking care of yourself, you will be able to then deliver and keep your oxygen tank enoughly full to be able to give oxygen to someone else. So compassionate means talking to yourself in the same way you would talk to a friend. Most likely, we are very compassionate with other people, but we are less compassionate with ourselves. The narrative, again, that comes up is not the same narrative that you would definitely share with a friend. So look at that, analyze that, be aware of how you're talking to yourself, and if you are engaging in self-care and in self-compassion as a regular practice. So naming your feelings has been shown to have various positive effects in our mood. It not only helps you put things into perspective, but it helps you have a sense of control. It helps you be able to, notice that there is a solution to the feeling that you're having. And when you're able to model that in your life and showing your child that you're able to name how you feel, your child is going to then learn that from you and say, you know what, I am feeling angry. Okay, what can I do when I'm angry? And there's so many things that kids can do when they're angry, like taking a breath or having a calm down box, or maybe throwing angry balls, or maybe doing some physical exercise to calm down. And we'll talk about those things later. But every emotion has a way of soothing it. So we want to ask, I wonder if you're feeling sad about this, or you're feeling upset about that. You're giving your child the name of an emotion that they need to then think about, and they need to then plan how to soothe. So you are allowing them to feel in control. You're not punishing the emotion, you're not invalidating the emotion, you're naming it to make them feel a lot more empowered. And then thinking about the coronavirus, our kids know a lot. They hear it from their friends, they see it in movies, or they hear you actually talking about it with your family members or friends, and they might not be saying anything to you. So make sure that you know what your kids know. Make sure you're asking them what worries them about the coronavirus. Make sure you're asking them, is there anything that they want to talk about regarding the coronavirus? Make sure that the information you're giving them is honest and it's transparent and it's positive. So yes, people have died, but most people with the virus do not die. Yes, there are people that are more at risk of contracting the coronavirus, but we're doing everything we can to keep each other safe. That's why we're washing our hands. That's why we are not going outside or going to the supermarket, or that's why we're not watching seeing as many friends. So this is what you are delivering. You're delivering the message to your daughter, to your son, saying, I am here to keep you safe. But the truth is that it's a difficult situation. It's not a situation we all enjoy, and it's not something we've ever lived before. So make sure that you are going to refer back to the resource list that we're going to send you with all the different websites and information that you could be giving your kids if they're still asking questions. Now let's focus on what they can do, right? So what we know is that we need to keep the focus on psychological safety and physical safety. Those are the main priorities as a parent right now with your kids. So what does that mean? So let's start with eating healthy. Let's start with washing their hands regularly. Let's start with getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, maybe taking multivitamins to get their immune system where it should be. You're taking care of their physical health. And then we're also letting them keep busy, right? Because empty spaces, if we have so many empty spaces, we leave room for a lot of anxiety and a lot of rumination, which are negative thoughts that come in for you and for your children. So let's start with having a structure, a schedule, activities that they are involved in planning. It might be play date through Zoom, cooking class. I know that, Dubai has had amazing initiatives for kids to, involve themselves in fun activities that don't require them to be outside. So we want to make sure that these are things that they can do. So whenever they come to you with a worry, make sure you spin it to what is it that it's in their control, and what are some activities that are fun, that are engaging, that they will be able to do that are in their control. What about if you're worried? So we want to make sure that you're asking questions. We want to make sure that if you don't know the information, you're getting someone that's going to give your child the right information that's age appropriately. We're not going to frighten our kids. And if you have older siblings, please talk to your older siblings to talk about the information that you're sharing with your younger sibling. Everything needs to be given in a developmentally according way. That's really important. Make sure that acts of generosity are done. Now that we're in the time of Ramadan, I think it's a great time to show how, gratitude and generosity are part of our everyday life. And what we know, again, through research, is that the more acts of gratitude and generosity you have, it's the antidote of feeling sad. It is almost works as well as an antidepressant. So let's make sure that we have these activities going in our house where we are, baking food and giving them to the guards, or, for people that don't have as much resources. Make sure that we're baking something for a family member, or we're having acts of kindness at home. These are things that really go a long way, and they're really easy to do. So for young kids that don't really understand the virus and that need a little bit more of concrete examples, this is a little experiment that I would suggest you doing with your 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old, maybe even 6-year-old, where you are filling a plate with water and you're shaking some pepper on it, and you're having your child put the finger on and lifting it up, and you're going to see that all the pepper or the germs sticks to the finger. After that, you're then going to put soap or hand sanitizer in the water, and they're going to stick their finger in there again, and you're going to realize that all of the pepper particles spread out. And so they're understanding then the need of washing their hands. They're understanding the need of keeping safe, because they're frightening all the bacteria away. So this is just fun activities to give your child a little more understanding of how to keep safe. When you are talking about anxiety, a lot of the times I work with this in my practice, and we draw either an anxiety monster or a character that exemplifies the fear that they might be experiencing. So usually we name the character, we draw it, we describe the characteristics of this character, and this is going to help them feel that it's not them, it's a part of them that they can control. A worry box is a Kleenex box or a shoe box with little things that are going to help them calm themselves down. It can be a squishy, a mandala coloring book, a stuffed animal, a blanket, a little recording of a breathing exercise. It's a toolbox that they can go to soothe themselves down. And it's actually quite useful for them to feel more in control of their behaviors. And then we have the anxiety shield, which is the one that is displayed in the slide, where they draw a shield and they're going to think about different strategies that they can engage on to keep the anxiety away. So it might be coloring, or taking a breath, or talking to a friend, or talking to mom and dad, or reading, or listening to music. And they write these things on the shield to remind themselves that they're in control, and they have a lot of resources to help them then soothe that anxiety or sadness or whatever feeling is intense. Also, interviewing a family member, showing vulnerability as a parent is an excellent tool, where we are not perfect. We also suffer. We also have these painful feelings. And maybe you give your child a strategy that has worked for you. And because you are the role model, they're really going to feel more empowered and actually trusting that your strategy is really going to work. So it's a game about them becoming a news reporter and interviewing someone else. And then a diary entry, writing about your feelings, understanding where in your body is it that you're feeling this. What would that feeling look like if it had some sort of personal attributes, and writing it down. So these are just some strategies, like I said, that would be useful for you to start doing with your child. Focusing on the good. We all know, and according to cognitive behavioral therapy, positive affirmations do make a difference. The narrative that you're telling yourself is going to affect the feelings and the actions you're going to engage in. So make sure that instead of trying to stay away from the virus, we are focusing on the things that they can do. So how am I going to then focus on building my immune system? Or how am I going to focus on getting more sleep? Or how am I going to focus on staying more connected rather than avoiding getting the virus? So like I said, taking advantage of the Ramadan time is going to be really, really useful to put these things into practice and make meaning of the different situations. Giving things to others is going to be a really important tool. These are some general tips I'm sure you have all read about, but it's really important for me to mention. Keeping a set schedule is going to be important. This schedule should be printed and it should be visual for everyone at home. So it should be a basic schedule where you have breakfast times, you have a set free time, you also have a time where there are no electronics during the day, and there is then a huddle time where you meet again as a family and you talk about how the day has been. It's really important to keep the priority of physical safety. So this includes physical exercise, sleep, and healthy eating. A lot of parents are asking me, how much screen time should I give my child? And my question then to you is my child doing physical activity? Is he or she engaging with their friends? Is he or she getting enough sleep? Is he or she complying with schoolwork? Is he or she enjoying family time? If the questions of these are yes, then you can decide to increment screen time a bit more. If the answers to these questions are no, then we need to decrease screen time to be able to comply with these 5 things. So make sure that you have this at the top of your mind. There is not a specific hour or limit for social media to be adequate for kids. There's a lot of disagreement through research about the hours depending on the age group. So I want to make sure that you're answering these questions, and based on this, you make your judgment as a parent. We want to make this fun. This is not just structured activity. Let's get creative. Let's camp outside in our backyard. Let's roast some marshmallows. Let's build a fort with pillows. Let's create a store in our house. Let's do arts and crafts. If we invest a little bit of time planning this activity with your child twice a week, 3 times a week, once a week, this will make a big difference. So make sure that we are having fun, that we are playing, that we might even use day-to-day activities as a learning opportunity for them. So maybe cooking can be a time to practice math, or gardening can be an opportunity to look and drawing and doing creative tasks, reading to talk about vocabulary and expand their curiosity. So these are all activities that are related to school, but are more in the everyday interaction that you might have with your child. It's not a sit down, let's get work done, you have 3 hours of worksheets to get through. It's more of an everyday interaction that you're still focusing on the developmental progress that they need to be having. So how to soothe anxiety? And I want to say it's not necessarily only anxiety. It can be any uncomfortable feeling, but in this case, because of COVID, we're talking about anxiety, but please feel free to use this for every emotion that is overwhelming. So we know that breathing is the fastest and the most potential way to regulate your body. It brings oxygen to your body, it calms down your parasympathetic system, it grounds you to the present moment, and it really soothes your physical reactions. So let's invite them to close their eyes, to imagine that their body is like the Burj Khalifa and they're imagining an elevator going up and down with their eyes closed. And they can do this about 5 to 10 times. And you can do this with them at night to build that habit of breathing. You might also invite them to have a glitter jar where you have a bottle, you fill it with water, you put glitter and other things, and you shake it, and then the child just sees the glitter simmer down to calm himself down. You can have him notice the breath and counting with his 5 fingers, breathing up, breathing down. That's also a really useful strategy for kids. Also, another one is throwing worry balls. So writing in a piece of paper what worries them or what makes them angry and scrunching them together and throwing them away is also a good strategy for young kids to manage their emotions. And then we have the famous body scan. Now, this is something you can download on YouTube, a body scan for kids, and it's a meditation where it goes through every part of your body, having the child focus on that part of your body to soothe themselves down. It's a very relaxing exercise. I strongly suggest it even for adults and for kids, and there are 2 different versions of this exercise. And then we have the famous stop technique, which is, okay, we're not going to talk about it right now. We're going to take a break. We're going to take a few deep breaths, and we're going to observe where the feeling lies in your body. We're going to notice it. We're going to name it so we can tame it. We're going to imagine how it looks like, again, putting it personal characteristics. And then we're going to think, what is the most important thing for me to focus in right now? Is it to finish the homework? Is it to listen to my mom? Is it to engage with friends? What is the most important thing I could be doing right now? And we're talking about the smallest thing you could be doing right now. It does not mean a huge thing. So if the child's having a tantrum because he doesn't want to do homework, stop the homework, invite him to take deep breaths, invite him to describe that feeling, and then ask him what is the best thing he should be doing right now. Maybe he needs another 5-minute break, maybe a glass of water, maybe we can come back and give it a try. Maybe he needs mom to be a little more calm. And this is a time where we are reasoning with your child rather than getting triggered by his behavior, because his behavior, again, is telling us underlying needs that are not being met. And these are questions that I really recommend you asking around this time. Do you have any worries about the coronavirus? How do you feel about staying home? What can I do to help the situation? What are some things you want to do in the future? So let them dream, let them plan what's going to happen after this time is over. Would it be helpful if we plan activities together for this week? What are you worried about when you can't go to bed? If they're having problems going to bed, what are they worried about? What is going on? What is the narrative that they're telling themselves? So these are some of the useful tools that I hope you can all apply during this time. And now I am ready to maybe answer some comments or questions about the talk. Please feel free to maybe write them in the chat, or you can put your video on and go ahead and you can ask me whatever you want. Let's see if I can open the chat. Any questions, any suggestions that you all have? You can also unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. That's perfectly fine as well.
Hey, hi, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing today? Thank you for attending the webinar.
I'm I'm really good too. I'm a clinical psychologist. My name is Noreen, and I'm so happy that I love your presentation. It was so awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. That really means a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think everyone really needed it, and I just was not about to pray, and I was like, let me just go in this webinar and check it out, and it was like really refreshing, and for the kids around my home, and telling them what to do is really nice. So it's like a revising thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And this is going to be recorded and sent to you so you can have it and share it with your community if you think it's going to be useful.
Yeah, sure, please. That will be so great. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, doctor.
Yes. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for the amazing session. My name is Hanadi. I'm from the Child Safety Department. I'm attending as a mother as well as I have a similar concern with my kids. And this is really useful for me, and I'm gonna share this with my sisters and cousins who to make sure that those informations are there for them. What about, I just want to have a question. I'm not sure if you mentioned that or no. What about the father involvement, especially that they spend most of the time as well working at home and, shopping for grocery and they have their own pressure. How do we involve them with us as mothers um, while they're already pressured from coronavirus and from everything?
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
you're right. I think right now, both parties are having their different processes to adapt to the new situation. And I think our husbands are going through a lot and a lot of preoccupation with their jobs and the economy being where it is. So I think the first thing I would definitely suggest is having a weekly check-in with your husband, usually asking how you think his week is going to look like. So you have a rough idea of when he might be free, when he might be able to help you with certain things, and you come up with a little plan. If a week in advance is not enough time, maybe you want to do this every 2 days to check in with him and ask him how he needs your support or maybe how you need his support. Involving dads in this process is also extremely valuable. Like I said, family interventions are actually a lot more successful than individual interventions. So keeping everyone in the loop and having these huddle times, not only with your kids, but with the father, is going to be crucial. So it's how's your energy going? Are you tired? Are you exhausted? Okay, so am I. So let's come up with a plan. How's your Wednesday morning looking like? How's your Thursday afternoon looking like? So maybe you can help me with the kids for half an hour. Maybe we can have dinner together. At the same time, it isn't about quantity of time, but the quality of the time. So both of you as caretakers of your kids need to block out any time that you have. And again, it's not long periods of time, but any time that you can to engage with them really at an emotional level. So this needs to be planned because of course the week goes on and parents have so many different responsibilities that might not be a priority and it gets pushed aside. So that would be my recommendation for you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, so you will have access to the recording. And so in the recording, you're going to see all the slides and all the information. And also you will be emailed a handout with the resources that I was mentioning for your kids. So you will have everything in your emails. Thank you guys. So nice of you guys to attend, really. you. Okay, if there aren't any, yes, go ahead.
Yes, I am Aida Ali Nasser. I am a teacher. So I want to ask you if any rules or something that can I help my student, because they are keep asking me, Miss, when this it will finish, Miss, I want to see you. How can I help them, or some structures that as a teacher, what can I do for my student? And thanks for extremely excellent that I'm happy that I am here with you and hear all this, because I think this is really important for me as a mother and as a teacher. So thank you. So can be or give me some rules that help me as a teacher, and thank you for you. Okay.
Thank you for being here. So I would say the first thing is, listen, we have to be honest with our kids. I think, you know, we can't hide the uncertainty of the situation, right? So we need to say, guys, I miss you all. I wish I could tell you a timeline where we are going to see each other, but I cannot. Let's plan fun things and things that you would want to be doing with me through Zoom or through WebEx or whatever platform you're using, or Google Teams or Microsoft Teams. And let's plan things, because right now I don't have the answers, and I know that doctors are doing everything they can and scientists are working night and day to get the vaccine out so we can go back to our normal lives. So let's plan on what we can do. So it's really important for parents and the adults that are relating to kids to bring them back to the present moment and the things that they can do that is in their control to make their lives more predictable and happier. So engage with them on the now. Don't let them take you to the future, because that just brings up a lot of guilt, a lot of anxiety for you as a teacher and as a mother. So that's definitely what I would say.
Hello, Daniela.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for giving us a great presentation. There's something that I always come across in my parents. I'm a counselor at International School of Creative Science.
Great.
And most of the parents are facing these days, you know, parents who have more than one child. They've been facing a lot of stress in terms of managing work, as well as managing e-learning of, you know, more than one child. And it's very difficult to, you know, give them some kind of, you know, strategies. Yes, we do tell them, do schedule the lessons, do schedule your work as well as the children's work, but it's not really so helpful. So we just wanted to know if there's any other strategy that you could help us with, or how we could, you know, help them in this regard.
Yeah. So I would say definitely number one is, first of all, we have a webinar specifically for that. It's called How to Stay Productive While Working from Home. So it's going to give you, and we can definitely do another one of these webinars with you all so we can talk about this subject. So I think it's affecting everyone. But I would say one thing, and it's, if we keep on operating in the same levels of expectations that we were operating in the past, we are never going to feel productive, because our lives has changed 80%. And I'm saying 80% because the 20% is what we had at home in the first place. So if we're not able to switch from the previous expectations to get everything up and done up to level, and expecting our kids to keep on delivering the same quality work because they're home, because they don't have anything else to do, because that's all that school's asking them to do is work, we are really not being realistic with what is happening now. There needs to be a complete mindset shift in regards to the needs that we are addressing in the present moment. A parent's responsibility, like I said in the presentation, is psychologically being safe and physical being safe. There is going to be an automatic and innate sort of effect in the quality and the grades that kids are going to have. And parents need to sit, and schools need to kind of sit with that, you know, where it's okay that this is happening now, because we are taking care of the two primary things that kids really need at this moment. And the year's gonna pass, and there's gonna be another time where kids are gonna be doing better and kids are going to be more successful. But right now, having the same expectations and unrelenting standards, if you will, of addressing home and work and parenting and schoolwork in the same standards is just not going to be feasible. So I think as a counselor, I would definitely pass that message on to parents. And like I said, I would also invite your community to attend our webinar on this.
But I think parents need to understand that they are causing pressure for themselves as well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Daniela.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Hello, Doctor. Thank you for your presentation. It's very helpful. I want your suggestion and your tips that because I have situation with my eldest son, he's when this situation starts, he's becoming more angry, more fighting with his another brother. So I'm trying my best, because I know the situation is different to him. He's 3 years old. Because he get used to go to the nursery, playing outside, because he was going to the garden every day like that. Now the whole situation, like what you said, is shifted. Staying at home, no nursery, no seeing he miss his friends too much because he's repeating their name every day, and he miss going out. So can you give us more tips or advice how we can manage the angry or the situation?
Yes. So I'm actually thinking that we should be doing a series of webinars, because there is another webinar specifically to parenting that I also give. And it's going to be very on point strategies on behavior management at home. So how to manage tantrums, how to manage anger outbursts, how to manage sad outbursts. And so this might be a useful webinar for you to attend as well. But overall, I'm going to give you one thing. And like we said, is all behavior is a form of communication. Okay? So he's irritable, he's becoming maybe aggressive. We want to make sure that that's not the behavior that we're necessarily trying to change, because there's another behavior at the bottom of the iceberg that we're not going for. So we need to make sure that that is talked about first. So I can see that you're very irritable. I am curious if this has to do with you missing your friends, or you're becoming almost like you're interrogating your child a little bit. I wonder if it has to do with this or this or this. And then when you talk about it, it's almost like you are seeing past your son. You're not letting him just stay with the anger. You're seeing past that anger, that there's something else. And I'm telling you, when you do this with teenagers, it's almost like they're shocked that you as a parent is able to look past the behaviors that they're showing initially, because they want to stay away. They want to push you away because they're not feeling safe, because they're feeling uncomfortable, overwhelmed. So all they need is you to name it, so they can burst down, kind of bring those walls down and say, yes, that's exactly what's happening. I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed, I'm tired, I'm scared, I'm whatever it is. And then you can start planning into plan B, which is how to modify that behavior. So that would be the first step.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, guys, one more question. And then I think I'm gonna have to go, but let me know if you have one more question. I'll be more than happy to answer that. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here today. It was a pleasure meeting you all through the portal. I hope that we can continue seeing each other and having more of these conversations together. And thank you for the Department of Child Safety for inviting me and participating in this event.
Thank you, Doctor. Can I say something before we end?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. My name is Hanadi, the Director of Child Safety Department. We've spoke on the phone. I just wanted to thank you and thank everyone for attending. Thank you for, especially you, because those presentations are really valuable to us as mothers as well. We will not stop presenting such webinars with Lighthouse or even other entities to make sure we cover all subjects that parents need. So if you enjoyed this webinar, people who are attending now with us, if you enjoyed this webinar, please feel free to follow us on social media, Child Safety UAE, and we will be announcing a series of programs, inshallah, in the coming period. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.